Hi, everybody. Glad to be back here with you. I've got some good questions this week to answer, and going to just get right to it. So first question is, why should I go gluten-free? So I think the question is kind of more directed to I didn't test positive for celiacs, and I don't show that I have a gluten allergy. So why is it necessary for me to go gluten-free, and what would be the reason to do that? So we don't necessarily have to test for an allergy to have a sensitivity to gluten. And you certainly don't have to just have celiac disease to have a sensitivity to gluten. The things that you want to think about with gluten or sensitivities or potential sensitivities to gluten is that gluten will cause inflammation in the body. So if you're dealing with current inflammation in the body, it will cause inflammation in the gut. If you're dealing with any digestive issues, bloating, constipation, IBS symptoms, diarrhea, acid reflux, there are a lot of gut sensitivities in relation to gluten. So if you're dealing with any of that, other things that we would consider would be allergies. Chronic allergies can be a sensitivity to gluten. Red bumps on the back of the arms, red bumps on the cheeks could be a sensitivity to gluten. Overall, just general skin issues like eczema, psoriasis, breakouts could be sensitivities to gluten. So, and then finally, pain in the body, just like chronic pain in the body. But another thing to consider with a sensitivity to gluten is mood imbalances and brain issues. So if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with attention deficit, if you're really struggling in those areas, that also could be because of a sensitivity to gluten. Gluten isn't really good for anyone. It's basically processed by the body like glue, more or less. So there isn't a soul on the planet that does well with gluten. Okay, it's not a quality ingredient for anyone. Okay, so we are in a society, especially in the United States, where it's just become part of how we manufacture a lot of our breads, a lot of the pasta, crackers, cookies, cakes. It's just the reality of it. And so it's going to be difficult to find products that don't have gluten if you're going to be eating those types of foods. Now, there's definitely more gluten-free foods available than whatever has been before. I mean, most definitely. But the gluten-free foods that are available are not necessarily better foods for you. They might actually be, they're free of gluten, but they might actually, in some cases, even be worse because they are made from starch that is rapidly going to convert to sugar, and it's going to cause a blood sugar spike. So just because a cookie is gluten-free doesn't make it a healthy cookie. It just makes it a cookie that still has a bunch of sugar in it, is now made with rice flour, potentially has some corn in it, and it no longer has gluten in it, which is great that it doesn't have gluten in it, but it doesn't necessarily make it a healthy option for you, okay? So gluten sensitivity can cause all of those issues, not gluten allergy. Gluten sensitivity can cause all of those issues that I mentioned. If you're dealing with any of those issues, even just with one of those issues, I would highly recommend taking a 30-day period of time, if not 3 weeks, 3 weeks to 30 days, where you would just fully eliminate gluten. Now, the thing with eliminating gluten is you really want to stick with this. This isn't something that you can do for 5 days and then have it on the 6th day, then eliminate it for 3 days, and then have it on the 4th day, and then go 10 days without it, and then have it on the 11th day, and expect to be able to receive from that change. Unfortunately, the body's going to have a histamine response to it when you have it. So the reality is if you want to try to remove gluten and you really want to see if it makes a change in your body, then you absolutely want to try to give it a solid 3 weeks to a solid 30 days to see if you're not feeling any changes. Okay, so definitely consider gluten-free if any of those symptoms are things that you deal with, most definitely. And definitely consider doing it for at least 3 weeks, if not 30 days. Now, just because a food is gluten-free doesn't make it a healthy food. It just means it's a food that's free from gluten. So just because it's a gluten-free cookie doesn't make it a healthy cookie. We have a very healthy bakery, Sophie's Bakery, and we make everything with almond flour. We use coconut oil. We use protein powder. We got compared the other day to a gluten-free cookie. But the reality of it is that there was no comparison, because this cookie had 30 grams of sugar, 35 grams of carbs. It was going to spike the blood sugar. This was a dessert. This was a sustaining snack that had 10 grams of protein in it, and it wasn't going to spike the blood sugar. So again, just because this is gluten-free doesn't make it it doesn't make it healthy. Okay, so that's just something to think about. Let's see here. Seems like there's a little bit of a connection issue, so I'm going to see if I can't. Let's try that. Okay. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to go ahead and try to put it on the Wi-Fi. Okay, second question. What is the best alcohol to drink when I drink? Coming from someone who doesn't drink, obviously I have the opinion that there's really no healthy alcohol out there. And the reality is that there really isn't a healthy alcohol. Like, it doesn't exist. Now, there's a lot of people that are trying to sell things, and maybe if we compared 3 of these and 3 of these, what they're selling might be healthier than these, because it doesn't have all the preservatives, all the extra sugar. So the extra items that are in there might be better, but the reality of it is that alcohol is a histamine producer. So it unfortunately is going to produce a histamine response in the body, almost as if you're consuming gasoline. So if you drink alcohol, your body's going to have a response. Now, the other response that alcohol will cause is a blood sugar response. So if you're having beer, it's like bread. Okay, so you're going to have the same type of response as if you had bread. If you're having wine, it would be like having grapes, and be like having extra fructose. It would be like having sugar. So that would be the comparison. If you were having vodka, it'd be like having a potato. If you were having whiskey, it'd be like having syrup. So that would be the metabolic response that your body would have to all of those different alcohols. And that's just like an example, so that you'd understand, like, what type of a blood sugar response am I going to have when I have a beer? Well, the same type as if you were going to have bread. What type of a blood sugar response am I going to have if I have wine? Well, the same type of blood sugar response as if you were going to have sugar. It's just, you're going to have an inflammatory response from that part of the drink, right? The bread part, the sugar, the fructose part. But then you're going to have a histamatic response and an inflammatory response from the alcohol that is in the drink as well. So when I make suggestions for better things to drink than others, it's not to say that this is in any way healthy, and it's also not to say that you're not going to have a histamatic response, because you are. You're going to have a histamatic response when you have this drink, whatever one I suggest. And you're probably going to have a metabolic response, where you're going to have a blood sugar response as well. It's just the reality of it. Now, the other thing alcohol does is it throws off your hormones. It can deplete testosterone, decrease testosterone, and it can increase estrogen. So most of the time when we say beer belly, like for a male, we usually say that. We don't usually say that for a female, but we say beer belly, that's actually an estrogen belly. So just something to take into consideration. All of those things happen when you're drinking alcohol. So I don't have like a tremendously high opinion of alcohol. If you have health issues, you're going to continue to have health issues if you continue to drink alcohol. Plain and simple. Okay, so the reality is, if I had to suggest one, what would that be? The one that I would suggest would be probably like vodka and Perrier, or vodka and Pellegrino with a lime. Just what you're mixing the alcohol with really makes a difference. So, if I have that vodka and then I have a juice with it, now I'm having sugar and I'm having the response from, having that alcohol as well. If I'm, but at least I'm not having a beer, which would be like having bread. So there are some advantages to the fact that I'm having this instead of having that. But I just don't want to fool you, because the reality is that your body's going to have a reaction. Whether you have just vodka with some Pellegrino or with some Perrier, or with a little bit of maybe one of your Ultimas, so that you have like a little bit of flavoring, your body's going to have a response to the alcohol, plain and simple. Okay, third question. How many days a week should I strength train? This is a really tough question to answer, because it really depends on the person, depends on what they're trying to achieve. So let's talk about a couple of different scenarios. If you're really just trying to achieve longevity and you truly just want a nice toned body, you could strength train 5 days a week. It would be absolutely no problem. As long as you're taking breaks on certain body parts. If Monday was arm day and Tuesday was leg day, and then Wednesday was back and shoulder day, and Thursday was chest day, and then Friday you repeated and did a leg day again, or maybe you did a full body or something like that. You just don't want the same body part being butted up against each other on the same day. So 2 days in a row. So Monday, I don't want to work arms, and then Tuesday work arms, and then Wednesday work arms. I want to have some spacing on that. But there's not too much weight training. I would always recommend taking at least 1 day's break, especially as you're aging. You cannot do too much weight training. It's so phenomenal for you. It's so good at protecting your bone structure. It is great at helping you to lower your blood sugar. There's longevity in strength training, so do it as often as you can do it. Now, if you're only able to do it 2 times a week, then you're only able to do it 2 times a week. Then get the benefit of it. But don't do cardio 7 times a week and then only do strength training 2 times a week, because you do have time. You're just choosing to spend it doing cardio instead of the strength training. Get yourself a minimum of 3 days a week of strength training. It will really make a difference if you're consistent with that. Now, what about Pilates? What about yoga? Of course, still do those. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but strength training changes things. If you are just starting out, start out slow. Tell yourself, I'm going to do 15 minutes of strength training today. I'm going to do 20 minutes of strength training today. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It can be that slow. It can be that minimal, but just get started on it. And if you're not 100% sure of what you're doing, don't get yourself hurt. Very, very easy to do that. Just sign up with a trainer. Make sure that they're guiding you through the process. Make sure that they take you through stretching, foam rolling, and mobility exercises. That's how they should be determining how they should train you moving forward. We personally here at Integrity take every client through a free personal fitness assessment. The reason we do that is because it shows us how we should be training someone. It shows us where their imbalances are. There are certain movements that just simply don't make sense for certain people, and yet I see people training people on those at other gyms all the time, like a functional deadlift with the big barbell. Not everybody's equipped to do that movement, and yet I see those people doing them in the gym with trainers all the time. And I think that is because trainers learn movements. They don't learn structural alignment. They don't learn science. And the reality is if you're hiring a trainer, they need to learn your imbalances first. And then they design a strength training program based on those imbalances and based on strengthening you and having you overcome those imbalances. So how many days a week should you strength train? In my opinion, as many days as you can, always taking a rest day. Start slow, work your way into it nice and slowly. Don't start at 4 sets on your very first workout. Start at 1 set on your first workout. Then move to 2 sets on your second workout. Move to 3 sets on your third workout. Then gradually work yourself up, but just start nice and slow. I hope that helps you guys. Thank you so much for joining with me. God bless you.